So, how are agencies using SBIRs, and how can you use that to your advantage? Stick around, and that's what we're going to talk about on tonight's episode. But first, it's Friday night, and that means it's time for Agile Acquisitions and Alcohol. Cheers. All right, folks, I am coming to you from an undisclosed location this evening to talk to you about SBIRs, the Small Business Innovation Research Program under USC 15638, Chapter 14A. If you have not heard of it, the Small Business Innovation Research Program, or SBIRs, come in three phases. Phase one is typically for research, user research, or further researching a concept. Phase two is a building of a concept or a minimum viable product. And phase three is typically for the commercialization of that product. The SBIR statute is really interesting, comes with all sort of great benefits for small businesses, and as it turns out, for agencies too, and they're starting to take advantage of it, and I think that's awesome. DoD, especially Air Force, has been using it quite often lately. Other groups are as well. But here's the deal, right? So SBIRs, the Small Business Innovation Research Program, is intended, obviously, as it says, for small businesses to help develop ideas, concepts for the government, help them build out that concept, and ultimately get them to a place of commercializing their product, or their product. In some cases, it's starting to be used for services, but mostly for product, such that it benefits the government. But here's the really cool thing. It has specific language in there that protects the intellectual property rights of the technology being built for the small business. This is one of the few cases where the government actually encourages keeping the intellectual property rights with the vendor. That's really great for companies that are looking to build a product, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the rights in that data, or the rights in that code and technology behind that product, is what determines how you can use it, how you can sell it, and ultimately the success of that product. So that's one really great thing. Another really neat thing about SBIRs is when you get to phase three, the law also encourages is almost not even a strong enough word. The law actually dictates that agencies will sole source back to that vendor for that capability developed under phases 1 and 2 for future use. That means if you get to phase 3, you essentially have the capability of receiving sole sources for delivering that product and functionality, so long as the government needs it. And it makes sense, right? If the government's going to invest in a company to build out this capability, then they should use the capability that they invested, just like any other IR&D type funding activity. So that is really cool for the business side. It's also great for the government. Once they've gotten there, they have an easy way to acquire this capability or this service going forward. It very much meets their needs, because they were very much part of the initial research of what the needs were. Go figure, user-centered design. And they're very much part of the building out and testing and implementation in phase 2. So phase 1 is capped statutorily at $150,000, although I've noticed a lot of agencies using a lower cap than that, and a shorter time period, like 2 to 3 months often. Phase 2 is capped at $1 million, but again, seeing that capped a little bit lower in a lot of these innovative uses of the authority. And then phase 3 is not capped; it is uncapped. It can be as large as it needs to be. There's a lot of different interesting ways that part's being applied. So it's such that now in the Department of Defense, where another commercialization can be achieved even through another organization within the DoD acquiring it. So you don't necessarily have to sell it in the commercial market. You just have to have another organization funding it besides the organization sponsoring the SBIR. So one, you get another customer within the government. Two, they can match the funds. I think up to $400,000 in phase 2, and ultimately then you have a bigger market within the government. So this is a win-win, definitely, for industry and for agencies. I applaud those folks in the department, especially, who have started utilizing this. There's been various organizations that have been doing it. I think it's a great example of understanding the statutes and using them to your advantage, which is what this is all about. There's been some creative applications even for acquiring services for a product, which is sort of this new language around agile development, and it'll be really interesting to see how far individual organizations can take that. So there you go, SBIRs. I think it's awesome. Good stuff. Keep it up. Also, keep up watching these videos. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know what topics you want me to talk about. And until next week, cheers.